Captain Lisa Morgan walked down the long metal hallway of the Galactic Council station. Her boots made soft sounds on the floor as she moved toward the main chamber. She had waited 3 years for this moment. Today, Earth would ask to join the Galactic Defense Alliance. Today, humanity would prove they belonged among the stars. The station was huge, bigger than any human building. It floated in space near a planet called Kepler 442b. 12 different alien species had built this place together. Each species was different from humans in their own way. Some looked like giant insects. Others were made of living crystal. Some were pure energy that glowed like fire. All of them thought they were better than humans. Lisa reached the chamber doors. They were 20 feet tall and made of some metal the humans had never seen before. The doors opened without a sound. Inside, the chamber was filled with voices, speaking in different languages. Some sounded like music. Others sounded like grinding stone. A few sounded like radio static dot. She stepped inside and all the voices stopped. Hundreds of alien eyes turned to look at her. Some eyes were huge and black. Others were like diamonds. A few glowed with their own light. Lisa felt very small, but she kept walking. Her uniform was clean and pressed. The Earth flag patch on. Her shoulders seemed to shine under the strange lights. At the center of the chamber sat the council members. Each one represented their species. Admiral Zexter of the Draconian Empire was the largest. He looked like a dragon that learned to walk on 2 legs. His scales were dark red, and his eyes burned like hot coals. Next to him sat Commander Veltara of the Crystalline Hegemony. She was made entirely of blue crystal that caught the light. And through rainbows across the walls, the Hive Lords looked like giant ants with 4 arms each. Their leader clicked and buzzed when it spoke. The Luminari were harder to see because they were made of pure energy. They looked like human-shaped flames that danced in the air. There were others too. The Titans were giants made of living metal. The Sage Collective looked old and wise, with skin like tree bark. Lisa reached the speaking platform in the center of the chamber. She looked up at all the alien faces staring down at her. Some looked curious. Most looked bored. A few looked angry that she was even there. Admiral Zexter stood up first. When he stood, he was 12 feet tall. His voice was deep and sounded like thunder. "So the humans have come at last," he said. "We have heard much about your species." None of it was good. Lisa said nothing. She had been told to let them speak first. This was their place and their rules. But inside, her heart was beating fast. "These creatures," Admiral Zexter continued, "come from a small world far from the center of the galaxy. They are weak and soft. Their bones break easily. Their skin tears like paper. They need to eat every few hours or they get sick. They sleep for 8 hours every day. What use could such weakness be to the Alliance?" Commander Veltara S. Crystal. Body rang like a bell when she moved. "Their technology is centuries behind ours," she said. "Their ships are slow and crude. Their weapons are simple, metal and fire. They have only lived on 1 world while we have conquered hundreds." The Hive Lord leader buzzed and clicked. A translator made its words sound human. "They live for less than 100 years. What wisdom can such short lives hold? What experience can they offer? We have individuals older than their entire civilization." One by one, each council member spoke against humanity. They called humans weak and stupid and useless. They said Earth was too far away to matter. They said humans would only get in the way during fights with the Void Swarm, the great enemy that all species feared. Lisa listened to every word. Her face showed nothing, but her hands were tight fists at her sides. She thought about all the humans who had died to reach the stars. She thought about the brave men and women who had built the ships and space stations that brought her here. She thought about Earth, beautiful and blue and far away. Finally, the voices stopped. Elder Quinder of the Sage Collective had not spoken yet. He was the oldest being in the chamber, older than some stars. His voice was soft, but everyone listened. When he spoke, "The humans wish to address the council," he said. "Let us hear what they have to say." All eyes turned back to Lisa. The chamber was so quiet she could hear her own heartbeat. She took a deep breath and began to speak. "My name is Captain Lisa Morgan of the Earth ship Terra's Pride," she said. Her voice carried clearly through the chamber. "I speak for all humanity when I asked to join the Galactic Defense Alliance." Admiral Zexler laughed. It was not a nice sound. "And what makes you think we need your help, little human?" Lisa looked directly at him. "Because we have something you don't." "And what is that?" Commander Veltara asked. Her crystal voice sounded amused. "The will to try when everyone says we can't," Lisa answered. The chamber erupted in laughter. Not all of it was mean, but most of it was. Some aliens made sounds that might have been their version of laughing. Others just stared at her like she was crazy. Admiral Zexler raised a clawed hand for silence. "You speak of will, human. But will means nothing without strength. Will means nothing without power. What can your weak species do that we cannot do better?" Lisa was ready for this question. "Give us one chance," she said. "One mission with your forces. Let us show you what humans can do." The laughter started again, louder this time. But Elder Quinder raised his ancient hand and the chamber fell silent. "Interesting," he said. Hissa. Old eyes seemed to glow with curiosity. "You ask for a chance to prove yourselves. Very well, there is a mission that needs doing. A rescue on the world called Paraxis 7. Our best warriors have tried 3 times and failed. The world burns with fire and poison. The heat would melt your human bones. The air would burn your lungs. If you wish to prove human worth, you may attempt what we could not do." Lisa felt her heart jump, but she kept her voice steady. "We accept, Admiral Zexler's eyes flashed with something that might have been respect or might have been hunger. "Then you will die, human. And when you do, no one will remember your species tried to reach beyond their place." Lisa smiled for the first time since entering the chamber. "We'll see about that." The ship Terra's Pride moved through space toward Paraxis 7. Lisa sat in the captain's chair looking at the red dot that grew bigger on the screen. Even from far away, she could see the planet was angry. Streams of lava covered its surface like glowing rivers. Volcanoes shot fire into the black sky. The whole world looked like it was burning. Behind her, Lieutenant Jake Collins was checking equipment. He was a big man from Detroit who used to fight fires before he joined the space fleet. His hands were steady as he tested each piece of gear. "Captain," he said, "the heat readings are off the charts. This planet is hotter than anything I've ever seen." Dr. Amy Peterson looked up from her computer. She was Earth's best expert on dangerous planets. Her blonde hair was pulled back and her blue eyes were focused on the data streaming across her screen. "The surface temperature is 800 degrees Celsius, she said. "The air is full of poison gas. The magnetic field keeps changing, which will mess with our electronics." Sergeant Ben Murphy was in the corner, studying maps of the underground caves. He had saved people from collapsed mines and flooded tunnels back on Earth. His dark skin gleamed with sweat even though the ship was cool. "The passages are narrow," he said, "built for smaller beings than the Draconians or Titans. Some are only 3 feet wide." Engineer Katie Sullivan was the youngest of the team. She had red hair and green eyes that never stopped moving. She had designed heat shields for the Mars colonies and knew more about surviving in hell than anyone her age should. "I've been looking at the alien rescue attempts," she said. "They all failed for different reasons, but they all failed." Lisa turned her chair around to face her team. "Tell me about the failures." Katie brought up a hologram in the center of the room. It showed the planet with lines marking where each alien team had tried to go. "The Draconians went first," she said. "Their natural heat resistance should have helped, but their armor was too big for the caves. They got stuck in the narrow passages." The hologram changed to show insect-like figures. The Hive Lords tried next. "Their shells can handle heat, but the thermal stress made them crack. 3 of them died when their exoskeletons split open." Jake whistled low. "That's rough." "The Luminari were next," Katie continued. Being energy beings, they thought heat wouldn't hurt them. But the planet's magnetic field kept changing and it broke apart their energy patterns. They couldn't hold their shape long enough to reach the trapped scientists. Amy leaned forward. What about the Titans? Silicon-based giants, Katie said. They should have been perfect for this kind of environment. But the electromagnetic interference fried their circuits. They're part machine, part living crystal. The planet's energy fields drove them crazy. Ben looked at the map again. So, big creatures can't fit, heat-resistant ones crack under pressure, energy beings fall apart, and the cyborgs go insane. What makes us think we can do better? Lisa smiled. Because we're not trying to be any of those things. We're just going to be human. The planet grew larger on the screen. Soon they could see the research station that was buried under tons of fresh lava. It had been built by the Luminari to study exotic matter that only formed in extremely hot conditions. The station was deep underground, connected to the surface by a network of natural caves and artificial tunnels. Tell me about the people we're rescuing, Lisa said. Amy pulled up another display. 6 scientists from different species. 2 Luminari researchers who were studying energy patterns. 1 crystalline engineer who was building new equipment. 1 Hive Lord biologist who was looking at how life could survive in extreme heat. 2 draconian technicians who were maintaining the station's shields. How long have they been trapped? Jake asked. Amy Dane, Amy said quietly. Their emergency shelters should keep them alive for maybe 25 days. We're running out of time. The ship shook as it entered the planet's atmosphere. Through the windows, they could see walls of fire reaching up to meet them. The air was thick with ash and poisonous gas. Lightning jumped between the clouds, but it was red instead of white. Lisa felt the heat even through the ship's shields. Katie, how are our modifications holding up? Katie checked her instruments. The heat dispersal system is working. Instead of just blocking the heat like alien tech does, we're spreading it out and using some of it to power our equipment. It's like turning the planet's anger into our strength. The ship touched down on a flat piece of rock that wasn't currently covered in lava. Through the windows, they could see a hellscape of flowing fire and poisonous steam. The ground itself glowed. Red-hot atmospheric readings? Lisa asked. Toxic, Amy said. Sulfur dioxide, hydrogen sulfide, carbon monoxide. Breathing this air for 10 seconds would kill an unprotected human. The pressure is twice Earth normal. Gravity is 1.3 times what we're used to. Lisa stood up and walked to the equipment lockers. Her team followed her. They put on their environmental suits in silence. These weren't like the bulky armor the aliens had used. Human suits were designed to bend and flex and move with the body. They were smaller but smarter. Jake sealed his helmet and tested his air supply. 48 hours of oxygen, he said, should be enough. Ben checked his climbing gear. Ropes, pitons, pulleys, and other tools that might seem primitive to aliens but had saved human lives for thousands of years. Cave rescue equipment ready? Amy activated her geological sensors. Small devices that could read rock formations and predict where it was safe to walk. I can map safe routes as we go. Katie powered up her engineering tools. Repair kits, spare parts, and improvised solutions. That could fix almost anything. Ready to jury-rig whatever needs fixing. Lisa looked at each of them. Remember, we're not trying to conquer this planet. We're not trying to prove we're stronger than it. We're just trying to work with it long enough to save 6 lives. They stepped out of the ship into hell. The heat hit them even through their suits. The ground under their feet was so hot it glowed. In the distance, geysers of lava shot hundreds of feet into the air. The sound was like being inside a giant engine. Amy consulted her instruments and pointed toward a crack in the rock. Wall. The cave entrance is that way. 1 kilometer across terrain that would kill us if we make one wrong step. Lisa looked at the path ahead. Streams of lava crossed it in 3 places. Poisonous gas vents dotted the landscape like deadly flowers. The rock itself was so hot it might melt their boots. Aliens tried to fight their way through this, she said. We're going to think our way through it. Jake was already studying the lava flows. These streams follow patterns, he said. Like rivers, I can see where they'll go next. Ben found handholds in the rock walls that the bigger alien warriors had missed. Small spaces, tight fits, that's what humans are good at. Amy read the ground like a book, finding solid rock that would hold their weight and soft spots that would give way. Geology doesn't care how advanced you are. Rock is rock. Katie looked at her power readings and smiled. The planet's thermal energy is actually charging our suits. The deeper we go, the stronger our equipment gets. Lisa took the first step onto the burning ground. Her suit's cooling systems hummed to life. Behind her team followed in single file. They moved carefully but steadily toward the cave entrance. Above them in orbit, the alien observers watched their progress with instruments that could see through rock and fire. Admiral Zexter studied the readings with growing surprise. "Impossible," he growled. "The thermal load alone should have killed them by now," Commander Valtara's crystal form chimed softly. "Perhaps we underestimated them." Elder Quinder said nothing, but his ancient eyes gleamed with interest as the human team disappeared into the burning caves of Paraxis 7. The cave entrance led down into darkness that glowed red from the heat. Lisa felt sweat running down her face inside her helmet even though the suit's cooling system was working at full power. The walls around them dripped with condensed steam that would burn through unprotected skin in seconds. Jake moved ahead of the group, using his experience from burning buildings to read the cave system. "The fire moves through here like it's alive," he said over the radio. "I can see the patterns. The lava comes and goes on a cycle." Amy knelt beside a wall of rock and ran her scanner over it. "This passage is stable," she said. "The rock formation will hold, but there's a thermal vent 50 meters ahead. We'll need to time our passage between eruptions." Ben was already setting up ropes and anchors. His equipment looked simple compared to alien technology, but it was tested by generations of human cave explorers. "The passage narrows here," he said. "Good thing we're not 7-foot-tall dragons." Katie studied the energy readings on her instruments. The numbers kept climbing as they went deeper. "This is incredible," she said. "The planet's thermal energy is so strong that our suits are actually getting more powerful the further down we go. It's like the heat is feeding our equipment." They moved through the first narrow passage in single file. The walls were so close that their shoulders brushed the hot rock. Behind them, they could hear the distant sound of lava flowing through the caves they had just left. The planet was alive with fire and violence. Lisa checked her map display. "The research station is 3 kilometers down and 2 kilometers inward. The alien rescue teams never made it past the first kilometer." "Why not?" Jake asked as he squeezed. Through a gap between 2 fallen boulders, Amy consulted the mission records. "The Draconians tried to blast their way through with heavy weapons. All they did was cause more cave-ins. The Hive Lords tried to dig new passages with their cutting tools. The extra tunnels just let more lava flow in." Ben laughed grimly. "So they tried to fight the mountain and the mountain won?" "The Luminari tried to phase through the solid rock," Katie added. "But the magnetic fields down here are so chaotic that they couldn't maintain their energy patterns. 3 of them got scattered into component particles. They reached the thermal vent Amy had detected. It was a hole in the cave floor about 6 feet across. Every few minutes, it shot a geyser of superheated gas and steam up to the ceiling. The blast was hot enough to melt steel. Jake timed the eruptions with his chronometer. 68 seconds between blasts," he said. "The eruption lasts 12 seconds. That gives us about 50 seconds to cross." Ben secured a rope to the far side of the gap. Not much room for error. Lisa went first. She waited for the next eruption, counted to 15 to make sure it was over, then ran across the narrow ledge beside the vent. The heat was so intense that her suit's external temperature alarm started screaming. She made it across with 10 seconds to spare. One by one, the rest of the team followed. Amy stumbled halfway across and Ben had to pull her the rest of the way with the rope. Katie's equipment pack caught on a rock projection and she had to twist free while the next eruption was building pressure below her. They all made it across, but their suits were showing stress warnings from the heat exposure. Any alien rescue team would have turned back at this point. The humans kept going deeper. The next obstacle was a lava flow that completely blocked their path. The molten rock moved slowly but steadily through a passage they needed to cross. It was like a river of fire flowing through the cave system. Amy studied the flow patterns. "It's not random," she said. "The lava follows the same path every time. There's a natural bridge of solid rock about 30 meters upstream. If we can reach it, we can cross safely." Getting to the bridge meant crawling through a passage that was barely 2 feet high and filled with poisonous gas. The alien warriors, with their bulk and rigid armor, could never have managed it. But humans had been crawling through tight spaces since the dawn of time. Jake went first, his firefighter training helping him move through the toxic environment. "Gas levels are manageable," he reported. "The suits are filtering it out. But the heat signature ahead is getting stronger." They crawled for 20 minutes through the narrow tunnel. Lisa felt like she was crawling through the throat of a dragon. The walls pressed in from all sides, and the heat made every breath feel like fire. But she kept moving forward, thinking about the 6 scientists depending on them. The natural bridge was a span of cooled lava rock stretching across the molten river. It was strong enough to hold their weight, but barely 3 feet wide with no railings. Below them, liquid rock flowed like a glowing highway to hell. Ben rigged safety ropes for the crossing. "One at a time," he said. "If someone falls, the rope should catch them before they hit the lava." They crossed successfully, but Katie's suit began showing dangerous heat levels. The prolonged exposure was pushing their equipment beyond its designed limits. She worked quickly to reroute cooling systems and redistribute the thermal load. "I can keep us going," she said, "but we're pushing into uncharted territory. Our suits weren't designed for this level of sustained heat exposure." 2 kilometers down, they found the remains of the crystalline rescue attempt. Pieces of blue crystal were scattered across the cave floor, cracked and melted from thermal stress. Amy knelt beside the largest fragment and ran her scanner over it. "The crystal structure failed catastrophically," she said. "The heat expansion and contraction cycles created fractures that spread through their entire bodies in seconds." Jake picked up a piece of crystal that had once been part of an alien rescue worker. "They were trying to be tougher than the environment. We're trying to be smarter than it." Further down, they found evidence of the Titan rescue attempt. Metallic components were fused to the cave walls, their circuits overloaded by electromagnetic interference. The silicon-based giants had literally been driven insane by the planet's energy fields. Katie studied the burnt-out components. "They tried to resist the electromagnetic interference," she said. "We're designed to work with it. Our equipment actually uses the M fields to enhance our sensor readings." The deepest, they found traces of the Luminary rescue team. Patches of residual energy clung to the cave walls like ghostly light. The energy beings had been torn apart by the chaotic magnetic fields and scattered across kilometers of tunnel. Ben secured his ropes to the energy residue anchor points. "Even their failure is helping us succeed," he said. "They mark safe paths with their own sacrifice." Lisa checked her mission chronometer. They had been underground for 8 hours and covered 2.5 kilometers. The alien rescue teams had never gotten this far, but they were still 1/2 kilometer from the research station. "How are our suit systems holding up?" she asked Katie. "Better than expected," Katie replied, checking her readings. "The thermal energy absorption is actually strengthening our power cells. It's like the planet is giving us the energy we need to save its prisoners." Amy pointed to a passage ahead that sloped steeply downward. "The research station should be at the bottom of this descent. But the passage is partially flooded with lava. We'll need to find another way." Jake studied the alternative routes on his map display. "There's a ventilation shaft that connects to the station's air system. It's narrow, maybe 18 inches wide, but it bypasses the lava flow." Ben looked at the shaft entrance and shook his head. "Even for humans, that's tight. We'll have to go one at a time and push our equipment ahead of us." Lisa made the decision. "We've come too far to turn back now." "Jake, you're the smallest. Take the emergency medical kit and go first. If you can reach the station and assess the survivors, we'll know what we're dealing with. Jake stripped down to essential gear and squeezed into the ventilation shaft. His voice came back over the radio, distorted by the metal walls around him. Moving forward, the shaft is clear, but it's getting hotter. 20 minutes later, his voice came back stronger. I'm through. I can see the research station. The emergency shelters are intact, but life support is failing. We need to get everyone out of here fast. Lisa smiled inside her helmet. For the first time since entering the caves, she felt real hope. They had done what the greatest warriors in the galaxy could not do. They had walked through fire and reached the impossible destination. Now came the hard part. They had to get back out alive, carrying 6 alien scientists who were depending on human courage to save their lives. The research station was a maze of twisted metal and broken crystal buried under tons of cooled lava. Emergency lights flickered weakly in the darkness, powered by failing generators. Jake moved through the wreckage carefully, his suit lights cutting through the gloom. 6 life pods, he reported over the radio. All still sealed, but the life support readings are in the red zone. 2 Luminari in the first pod, barely holding their energy patterns together. 1 crystalline engineer in the second pod, significant fracture damage. The third pod has the Hive Lord biologist, unconscious but breathing. Pods 4 and 5 contain the Draconian technicians. They're awake but weak. The 6th pod is empty. Lisa's voice crackled through the interference. 6 scientists, 5 pods. Where's the 6th person? Jake searched the station wreckage and found what he was looking for behind a collapsed wall section. Found her, he said grimly. Dr. Zintari, the Luminari project leader. She gave up her spot in the life pods to save the others. She's been maintaining the station's emergency power with her own energy for 18 days. The Luminari scientist was barely visible, just a faint glow of dying light clinging to the station's power core. She had literally been feeding her life force into the machinery to keep the others alive. Can we save her? Lisa asked. Jake checked his readings. Maybe, if we can get her to a proper medical facility fast enough, but she's used up almost everything she has. Amy's voice came through the tunnel. Jake, we're sending down portable life support units. Ben rigged a pulley system to get equipment through the ventilation shaft. One by one, the human rescue gear descended through the narrow passage. Portable oxygen generators, thermal regulation units, emergency medical supplies, and transport harnesses designed for moving injured people through tight spaces. Jake worked quickly to stabilize the survivors. The 2 Luminari in the first pod were barely conscious. Their energy patterns were fluctuating wildly, threatening to dissolve completely. He set up a containment field generator that would hold their molecular structure together. During transport, the crystalline engineer was in worse shape than he had first thought. Thermal stress had created fractures throughout her body structure. Moving her wrong could shatter her completely. Jake carefully wrapped her in specialized padding designed to distribute pressure evenly. The Hive Lord biologist was unconscious but stable. His exoskeleton had cracked in several places, leaking vital fluids. Jake sealed the cracks with emergency biopaste and connected a portable life support system to maintain his circulation. The 2 Draconian technicians were awake and trying to help despite their weakness. Human, one of them said, his voice barely a whisper. We did not expect your species to attempt this rescue. Jake smiled inside his helmet. Yeah, well, we're full of surprises. Getting Dr. Zintari stabilized was the biggest challenge. As an energy being, she couldn't be moved using normal methods. Jake had to create a portable containment unit and carefully transfer her fading consciousness into it. One mistake and she would disperse completely. Got her, he finally reported. But she's critical. We need to move fast. Lisa had been calculating routes and timing while Jake worked. The ventilation shaft won't work for moving injured people, she said. We need to find another way out. Amy had been studying the cave structure with her geological sensors. There's a secondary passage that leads to the surface, she said. It's longer than the route we took down, but wider. The problem is it goes through an active thermal zone. The temperature readings are off the charts. Ben was already setting up ropes and pulleys for moving the injured. How hot are we talking? Hot enough to kill an unprotected human in 30 seconds, Amy replied. But it's the only way to get everyone out safely. Katie had been working on modifications to their equipment. I can boost our thermal protection systems, she said. If we link all our suits together and share power, we can create a protective field around the whole group. Lisa made the decision. Do it. We didn't come this far to lose anyone now. They began moving the survivors one by one through the emergency passage Jake had used. The Luminari had to be moved in their specialized containment units. The crystalline engineer required extreme care to prevent further fracturing. The Hive Lord had to be carried on a stretcher, improvised from equipment packs. The most difficult transport was Dr. Zientari. Her energy pattern was so unstable that any jarring motion could cause her to dissipate. Jake carried her containment unit personally, moving with the careful precision of someone handling liquid fire. When they were all together in the wider passage, Katie activated her modified thermal protection system. Energy flowed between all their suits, creating a shared shield that was stronger than any individual protection. It was a uniquely human solution. Cooperation instead of competition. The journey through the thermal zone was a nightmare of heat and poisonous gas. The walls around them glowed cherry red from internal fire. Steam vents shot scalding vapor across their path. The air itself seemed to burn, but the human team moved steadily forward, carrying their precious cargo of alien lives. Jake used his firefighting experience to predict safe paths through the thermal maze. Amy read the rock formations to avoid unstable areas that might collapse. Ben managed the complex system of ropes and pulleys that kept everyone together. Katie monitored their shared power system and made constant adjustments to keep their protection intact. We're pushing the suits beyond their design limits, she reported. But the thermal energy we're absorbing is actually helping power the protective fields. Lisa coordinated the entire operation, making split-second decisions about routes and timing. When a thermal vent blocked their path, she found an alternative. When a rope anchor failed, she improvised a replacement. When Dr. Zientari's containment unit started failing, she personally held the energy patterns together with her suit's magnetic field generators. Halfway through the thermal zone, they faced their greatest challenge. A massive eruption ahead of them had filled their planned route with molten lava. The passage was completely blocked, and their suits were already pushed to their limits. We can go back and try another route, Ben suggested. But that will add 3-hour journey. Jake checked the life support readings on the survivors. The Luminari won't last 3 more hours. Dr. Zientari is barely holding together now. Amy studied her geological sensors and found what they were looking for. There's a narrow ledge above the lava flow, she said. It's only 2 feet wide and 100 feet long, but it would get us past the blockage. Ben looked at the ledge and shook his head. That's suicide. One slip and we all fall into the lava. Lisa looked at the unconscious aliens depending on them. For life, we promised we wouldn't leave anyone behind, she said. Set up the ropes, we're going across. The crossing took 2 hours of careful, dangerous work. They moved one person at a time across the narrow ledge, suspended by safety ropes over a river of molten rock. The heat rising from below was so intense that their suit cooling systems screamed constant warnings. Jake went first, carrying Dr. Zientari's containment unit with hands that never trembled despite the danger. Amy followed with the crystalline engineer, moving with the precision of a surgeon to avoid jarring the fragile alien's fractured body. Ben transported the Hive Lord on an improvised stretcher system that distributed weight across multiple rope anchor points. Katie brought the 2 draconian technicians one at a time, their weak bodies supported by emergency harnesses. Lisa came last, carrying the 2 Luminari and their portable containment units. She was the team leader and took the greatest risk on herself, trusting her people to have prepared a safe path for her to follow when they were all across. They looked back at the ledge they had just traversed. Any one of the alien species would have considered it impossible. The Draconians were too heavy for the narrow path. The Titans would have melted the rock with their heat signatures. The Hive Lords couldn't have maintained their balance with their rigid exoskeletons. The crystalline beings would have shattered from thermal stress. The Luminari would have been dispersed by the magnetic fields rising from the lava. Only humans, with their flexibility and willingness to take calculated risks, could have made that crossing while carrying injured survivors. 1 more kilometer to the surface, Amy reported, checking her instruments. The thermal readings are dropping. We're going to make it. Lisa looked at the 6 alien beings they were carrying to safety and felt a pride deeper than anything she had ever experienced. They had walked through hell and brought back souls that everyone else had given up for dead. The shuttle Terra's Pride lifted off from the surface of Paraxis 7 with its precious cargo of rescued scientists. Inside the medical bay, human and alien medical equipment worked together to keep 6 beings alive. Dr. Zintari's energy patterns had stabilized inside her containment unit. The crystalline engineer's fractures were being sealed with emergency compounds. The Hive Lord biologist was conscious and breathing normally. The 2 Draconian technicians were weak but recovering. Lisa sat in the pilot's chair, her hands still shaking slightly from exhaustion and adrenaline. Through the viewscreen, she could see the Galactic Council station growing larger as they approached. 36 hours had passed since they entered the burning caves. Everyone had expected them to die within the first few hours. Jake collapsed into the co-pilot's seat, his face streaked with sweat and exhaustion. I can't believe we actually did it, he said. When I saw that thermal zone, I thought we were all dead. Amy was running final checks on the rescued scientists. All 6 are stable, she reported. Dr. Zintari is the most critical, but she should make a full recovery with proper treatment. Ben was coiling up the climbing ropes they had used in the caves. Every piece of equipment was scorched and stressed from the extreme conditions. These ropes saved our lives a dozen times, he said. Simple human technology doing what all their fancy alien gear couldn't do. Katie was analyzing the data from their mission. Her instruments had recorded every moment of their journey through hell. The thermal energy readings are incredible, she said. We were exposed to conditions that should have killed us instantly, but our adaptive systems actually got stronger the deeper we went. The docking bay of the council station was filled with alien medical teams waiting to receive the rescued scientists. Lisa could see Admiral Zexler standing at the observation window, his dragon-like face unreadable. Commander Veltara was there too, her crystal form glowing with what might have been surprise. All the council members had come to witness what they had believed was impossible. The shuttle touched down with a gentle bump. Medical teams rushed forward with specialized equipment for each species. The Luminari were transferred to energy containment chambers. The crystalline engineer was moved to a pressure-controlled environment. The Hive Lord was taken to a biomedical facility designed for his species. Lisa watched as Dr. Zintari was carefully moved to the most advanced medical facility on the station. The dying Luminari scientist had used her own life force to keep the others alive for 18 days. She deserved to recover and see her research completed. The human team walked through the station, corridors toward the council chamber. Other beings stopped to stare at them as they passed. Word of their success had spread quickly through the station. The humans who had been dismissed as weak and useless had accomplished what the galaxy's greatest warriors could not. In the medical bay, alien doctors were running tests on the rescued scientists and discovering something that challenged everything they thought they knew about humans. The rescue team showed only minor injuries and exhaustion despite enduring conditions that would have killed members of supposedly superior species. Dr. Velquan, the station's chief medical officer, approached Lisa with his test results. He was a tall, thin being with skin like silver metal and eyes that glowed with internal light. Captain Morgan, he said, we have completed our examination of your team. The results are most unusual. Lisa raised an eyebrow. How so? Your bodies adapted to the extreme environment in ways we did not think possible, Dr. Velquan explained. Your cellular structure actually became more efficient under stress. Your nervous systems learn to process the toxic gases and extreme temperatures as normal environmental factors. Your metabolisms shifted to use thermal energy as a power source. Jake laughed. So we got stronger by walking through hell. In simple terms, yes, Dr. Velquan said. Your species has an adaptive capability that exceeds anything in our medical databases. You do not resist hostile environments. You learn to work with them. The council chamber was packed with representatives from every member species. Lisa and her team walked to the center of the chamber where they had stood just 2 days ago. But this time, no one was laughing. No one was making jokes about human weakness. Admiral Zexther stood up first, his massive form casting shadows across the chamber. When he spoke, his voice carried a tone that Lisa had never heard from him before. Respect. Captain Morgan, he said, we owe you and your species an apology. We measured strength by the wrong standards. We looked for hardness when we should have valued flexibility. We sought size when we needed adaptability. Commander Veltar's crystal body chimed softly as she moved. The crystalline hegemony withdraws all previous objections to human membership. In the Alliance, she said, your actions have proven that courage and determination are more valuable than raw power. The Hive Lord representative clicked and buzzed. The translator made his words clear. The collective agrees. Humans have shown that intelligence and cooperation can overcome obstacles that individual strength cannot. One by one, each species representative stood and acknowledged what the humans had accomplished. They had not just rescued 6 scientists from a burning world. They had shattered the assumptions that kept humanity from being taken seriously. Elder Quinder raised his ancient hand for silence. The vote for human membership in the Galactic Defense Alliance will now be conducted, he said. All in favor? Every hand, claw, tentacle, and energy projection in the chamber rose in agreement. The vote was unanimous. Lisa felt tears streaming down her face inside her helmet. They had done it. Humanity had earned its place among the stars not by being the strongest or the most advanced, but by being willing to walk through fire to save lives. But Admiral Zexther was not finished speaking. Captain Morgan, he said, there is one more thing. The void swarm has been detected moving toward the Kepler system. 3 worlds with billions of inhabitants are in danger. Our best tacticians say the worlds cannot be defended with conventional methods. Lisa looked at her exhausted team and then back at the Admiral. What are you asking? We are asking if humans would be willing to attempt another impossible mission. Zexther said, to save lives that others say cannot be saved. Jake stepped forward. With respect, Admiral, that's not really a question for humans. What do you mean? Commander Veltara asked. Amy smiled. He means we don't see it as impossible. We see it as Tuesday. Ben checked his equipment. When do we leave? Katie was already running calculations on her portable computer. I'll need to modify our ships for whatever environment we're heading into. Lisa looked around the chamber at all the alien faces staring at her team with new understanding. They had called humans a feeble species. They had dismissed Earth as too primitive to matter. They had laughed at the idea that soft, short-lived creatures could contribute to galactic defense. You're right about one thing, Lisa said to the assembled council. Humans are different from you. We break easily. We die quickly. We need constant care and feeding. But you forgot something important about things that break. She paused and looked directly at Admiral Zexther. Things that break can also bend. And things that bend don't always break. Elder Quinder S. Ancient. Eyes gleamed with understanding. And sometimes, he said softly, the things that seem most fragile are actually the strongest of all. Lisa nodded. We accept your mission, Admiral. When the galaxy needs someone to walk through fire, call the humans. We've had plenty of practice. The council chamber erupted in sounds that might have been cheering from a dozen different species. But Lisa was already thinking about the next challenge, the next impossible rescue, the next chance to prove that humanity belonged among the stars. They had called her species feeble. But in walking through fire, humanity had shown the galaxy that true strength wasn't about being unbreakable. It was about being willing to break and heal and break again for the sake of others. The stars were calling, and humanity was ready to answer.